Hi, and welcome back to Performance Cafe and specifically Coffee Companions. Now, today I've got an extra special guest and someone who it was so much fun to speak to him earlier in another event that I've just decided that we need to chat again. And that is Kagiso Hlabahlaba. Now, for those of you who might have been watching my LinkedIn, you'll notice that a week or two ago, gee, the time has flown, I was the MC at the AFSUG Super SIG. And there I met Kagiso Hlabahlaba, and he just made such an impact on me. I wanted to bring him home and show him to all of you guys and talk through some really incredible experiences he's been through thanks to COVID and how he's managed to stay positive and overcome. Now, Kagiso has over 12 years working experience in information technology, spanning software development, training, and SAP consulting over multiple industries. He currently works as IM product manager for Sasol, looking after the HR and Stakeholder Relations portfolios. He also serves on the African SAP User Group, AFSUG, HXM Steering Committee as chairperson. Recently, Kagiso reached the semi-finals of the 2021 Accenture Rising Star Awards, and we are all very excited for him in that because he definitely does embody, according to everyone here at Performance Cafe, and I'm sure everyone in the whole wide world, what Accenture is looking for in that star. Hi, Kagiso, how are you?
Good morning, Innocent. I'm very well, thanks. And how are you?
I am very well, thank you. So exciting stuff. You are hopefully going to hear soon about the Rising Star Award. How do you feel about even being nominated and getting to semi-finals?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's quite exciting for me. It's been such an overwhelming sort of process because, people nominate you based on what they see that you've got the qualities to become a rising star. And it's such an honor for me. So I already feel like I'm a winner. I'm going to go through the process, but, no matter the outcome, I already feel like I'm a winner. So I'm very happy.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, just so that everyone gets a bit of a background, the Rising Stars Awards from Accenture is taking a look at celebrating exceptionally talented young people who have the capacity for achievement and success, according to the website, and who contribute in an inspirational manner. And they make a big point about saying that these rising stars go beyond performance and technical excellence. What is it that you think they look for when they say go beyond, excellence and technical performance, Kagiso? So what's your sense?
I think that is the basis. I mean, you have to have the aptitude for it. So, you must know your work. You must probably be a good leader. But I think when people speak about it, going above and beyond, especially in terms of performance, for me, that says, there's a huge human element into it. So you can be good at your work, but if your attitude is wrong, then I think people don't really listen to you. I read somewhere, I think it was Roosevelt, if I'm not mistaken, one of the old American presidents, who said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's always been my thing. I am such a big advocate for humanity and for showing people care, even within the work environment. And I think those are some of the kind of things that Rising Star probably looks out for, being a good leader, putting your people first and achieving together. So at least that's what I think. I mean, so that's what I always try to do or to emulate in everything that I do. And maybe that's what they look for. Hopefully it is.
Then I'm sure you're in good standing there. So it's an interesting thing that you bring up there where you say about showing how much you care. Do we really have space for that in business? I mean, isn't it just about come in and get your work done? I'm paying you after all.
I think that's a very big recipe for disaster in my view. I think, before we are employees, we are human. We are people. We've got everyday struggles. We know now what's going on with the country at the moment. Imagine your employee didn't care about the impact that it could possibly have on you. And besides just that, just everyday life, a lot of our people, we live in areas where accessibility is a problem. It's far to get to work sometimes. There's strikes and all sorts of other external factors. If I didn't care as an employee to, towards my people, I think we take away from how motivated they are and how much they want to come in and do the work. You can only entice people up to so much with just money. There's definitely space for humanity and caring, I think, if you want to achieve a successful business. I think at the end of the day, you can have all the right processes, all the right elements, technology, but it's actually the people who make all that come together and who make it work. So I think the one biggest, and I like the term human capital. I think people really are capital to a business. If you get that wrong, I don't see how you would possibly expect to succeed in business.
Yes, so much more than just a resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so I appreciate and I celebrate where you're coming from, but we've had a tough time. So how do we still ensure caring and performance? COVID and unrest, and it's just like everything's happening.
That's such an important question. I think performance, when people feel inspired to do what you expect them to do, then they should perform. But I think also, if you give people meaningful work, so I think it's very important that people at the ground understand where the company is trying to go, what they're trying to achieve. So involve people in your strategy. First of all, have a clear strategy as a leader. So know exactly what it is that you want to do, know exactly what difference you make into people's lives or the people that you're serving as a company, and filter that information down to everybody in the company so that everybody feels like they're contributing to the greater success of the company. That will definitely get people going. If it's meaningful work, if they can see the value that they're adding, then they should perform. People want to feel as if they're making a difference. It's not just about coming in, doing the mundane and then going back home. You want to make it clear to people why they're doing what they're doing. And I also think, recognizing people. I mean, you've got no idea how much this nomination for Rising Star has done to me as a person in terms of my work, even. It only just motivates me to want to do better within my work. And the company then benefits. Sasol then benefits from that motivation that I get. So I think acknowledging people for doing good work will help with their performance, and actually rewarding them with, when they've done good work, rewarding them, whether that's monetary, whether that's a little certificate that says, what, you really are valued, we appreciate you. Just reward people, give them meaningful work, and share the vision that the company is trying to achieve. Make them feel like they're adding value. I think those are key elements in making sure that performance is always on the up.
Wonderful. So what we are saying is, and I'm specifically asking this question because I want it to be proven to be taboo, is that people just arrive for a paycheck.
I couldn't disagree less. I think, look, it's important. I mean, we live in the kind of community that we live in, and essentially we work because we want to make a living for ourselves and for our families. So money is absolutely important, but I don't think that's what drives people. Certainly not what drives me or anyone in my team for that matter. I know for a fact, because I speak to them and I want to make sure how I can always continue to keep them happy. So I think money is important, but it's not just about money. I think it's adding value. So if I know that my contribution or my work adds value to somebody else's life, I think as humans, especially in South Africa, we've got this concept of Ubuntu that I don't think is really understood worldwide, but it's just who we are. It's in our blood. It's in our nature that we want to help our fellow person. So I think if we do work that adds value to the next person, that already is payment enough as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, wonderful. So given how tough things have been, how are we measuring success right now? Because, and I would love for you to share some of the story that you shared with me around your project. How do we measure success when we've got so much chaos around?
Absolutely. I mean, I spoke to you about our big transformation journey that we had embarked before COVID came into play and totally disrupted our momentum and everything. We've just had to adapt. I think I attended a talk recently, and one of the people was talking about situational leadership. And I think, that applies across all levels. It's not just on the leader. It can be just the person on the ground as well. We have to adapt to the different situations. We find ourselves in this global pandemic that, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before, at least not in our lifetimes. And we first of all, we have to equip everybody to be able to continue to do their work. So companies are doing awesome work with providing facilities for us to be able to continue working from home. And as long as you equip your people and you manage your people in that manner, they will continue performing and they will continue. Success doesn't have to be different just because of geographical locations or just because we're talking through the laptop right now as opposed to face to face. So we still have to measure ourselves. That's definitely a must. We still have to make sure that we're meeting all our objectives. Some objectives become harder to meet because we don't have that personal interaction. But with technology these days, there really is nothing that we can do. So I don't think performance changes that much. We just have to adapt and make sure that we have at Sasol, one of our biggest performance measures is acting safely in our environment. We are a mining environment, and we really are sticklers for safety and health when in Sasol. So driving into the building and not driving beyond 10 kilometers is one of our KPIs. And that has actually, I do it now when I drive into my complex, for example, because I know there's kids around and there's other cars and whatever. So, we just have to be adaptable and we might not be necessarily being able to measure in the traditional sense, but definitely we can still definitely measure success and hard work,
Wonderful. So you spoke, as you've alluded to, the transformation journey. In essence, if I remember correctly, you started it. And then what happened?
So we started this big transformational journey. And just to give a little bit of context, what we were doing is we were basically taking our HR application and moving it to the cloud. So we use SAP technology and we've been on premise for many, many years. And we want to keep modern. Sasol, we pride ourselves on being, at the forefront of technology and the best industry standards to work with. So we're trying to move our HR solution onto the cloud system, SuccessFactors. And in the midst of all that, COVID happened. It affected our timelines, our budget, our schedule. In fact, we got to a point where we actually had to pause the project. So you can imagine that was quite tough on all of us. I mean, on a personal level and on a work level, these are things that somebody in my position, it's the stuff of dreams. I want to be at the forefront of such transformational journey. But we've had to stop, very, very tough lessons out of that. But I'm happy to report that we've actually just started. It's been a month now. We've restarted. We've managed to secure the funds again. So we're moving forward with that project, and I'm very, very happy about that.
Wonderful. And what I really loved about you sharing that story at the Super SIG was how you expressed your disappointment about, as you said, this a major opportunity, and then it gets taken away so quickly. Yeah. Interesting question for you. I certainly come from a background, and you can decide if it's race or religion or whatever, where the world can be seen as right, wrong. There's one way to do something. There's these very fixed parameters that I think are a little bit odd to try and follow nowadays. What do you think is the best way for businesses to deal with that, with challenges and disappointments? Because normally, as soon as there's a challenge or disappointment, it's like, oh, we're going to give up. What do you think is the answer?
Yeah, so I also do agree. There is right or wrong. There are sort of moral standards and values that, and these are often expressed in company missions and visions and statements. I think first and foremost, it's very important that we stick to that. People buy into you as a company, I think, because of what you stand for, what you're trying to achieve. So there certainly are gray areas, but I think if you try to stick to what your values and your morals are as a company, then you should be fine. Giving up is not an option, in a sense. It really isn't an option. And I say that lightly, but I understand and I know and I appreciate how difficult that may be. But with the right motivation, I'm very fortunate as a person because I have this amazing ability to just keep on going, to just keep on motivating myself, whether I get that from, how I was raised or my religious values or my spirituality. I don't know. Must be a combination of all. But giving up is not an option. But what you want to do instead is, in the face of adversity, that's where you really should be pushing harder, because you will even thank yourself even more at the end of that. And this is not always something easy to achieve, and especially to communicate to people who look up to you in the workspace, or who you look up to sometimes, because leadership should be both downwards and upwards. But
Yes.
it's just a matter of trying to keep everybody going, trying to stay positive. It's okay to take time out to say, you know what, I'm gonna sulk for today, but tomorrow you get right back on the horse and you just keep on pushing. You have to keep motivation up. So giving up is definitely not an option.
It's one thing to say, just keep going, keep motivated. What do you think leadership can do for employees to keep them focused and motivated at a time, at times when things are somewhat challenging?
I think one of the biggest things there has to be communication. I think this concept of change management is such a strong concept, and people often overlook it as a byproduct. But for me, it's probably the most important thing. The biggest times that I've felt uncertain in anything, in any of my previous jobs, is when leadership goes quiet. There's this quietness and nobody's actually explaining to you what's going on. Or when they do try to explain, they're not honest and sincere in what they're trying to deliver. And that, for me, that puts me off immediately. That creates panic. So I think leadership should step up and say, listen, we find ourselves in quite a difficult time. We don't necessarily know what we're going to do to get out of this at the moment, but this is what we're thinking. And keep it going, keep the conversation going, open up the communication channels, make sure that people always understand what's going on. So I think communication and change management is quite an integral part in leadership, and how you keep people following you as a leader in times of adversity.
It's a really interesting concept that you raised there, because we always think of, I certainly always think of change management as it's a process that is attached to a transformation or a change. I've never thought of change management as a way of dealing with challenges. So that's so interesting.
Well, if you think about whatever challenge you're going through, it's actually a change from the norm. So if our share price is up there, and we're getting our bonuses, there's no money. I mean, there's no money issues, and then all of a sudden we can't pay bonuses because of the share price and whatever else we're going through. That in itself is change to what I'm used to as a person, as an employee. So all of a sudden I can't budget as I would have, with the extra money.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that itself is a change. So in the face of adversity, change can be applied to anything, or change management rather can be applied to any situation, whether good or bad. That's where I think as a leader you get your buy-in from people.
That is, I really, really like that perspective. Thank you for sharing that. So I'd like to now step over and let's talk a little bit about work from home. We've spoken a lot about office stuff, but work from home. How has that been accepted in your industry?
Oh wow! I think initially we were all excited about it. I remember when it was run about just before March, when the conversation started happening, just before the big lockdown, the first lockdown we had. And we were also happy about working from home, because I mean, what could be better? I don't have to wake up and face traffic, and that was the general feeling amongst my peers, at least. And I think a month or so later, on a personal level, I started to get very lonely, actually. I'm a very sociable person. I like interacting with people. I like being out there. And all of a sudden, I didn't have that. And then you have kids in the house that don't respect that you at work. They want what they want whenever they want, whether that is lunch or they want to watch this cartoon with you. So, having to manage all those dynamics as well. And, my partner certainly feels or thought working from home means I've got time to do all the chores that I've been putting off. So, I think it had its ups and downs. On a personal level, it did bring about a lot of loneliness initially. But then as time went on, we this is what I love about technology and technology in general, that we adapted. All of a sudden we were empowered because we were given we've always had, but I mean generally in general terms, we were given tools to be able to perform from home. I know some companies that actually sent out their office chairs because they wanted to make it more comfortable, office equipment, internet to be able to connect. Video calling capabilities were drastically improved in industry in general, and it's worked out so far. I mean, Innocent, can you believe it's almost been 2 years now that we're working from home, and our companies haven't fallen to the ground. We're still profitable. We're still, the work is continuing. So I think working from home was a big change, but I think we've got it right now. I think we're on the right track.
And wasn't that quite a transformation? I always say to people, initially we were just working from home. It wasn't remote work. There were no policies and structures in place. And did you guys find that you had to do a lot of work in getting sort of like the business aligned with the work from home process?
It didn't take much convincing at all, actually. I think everybody was excited about it. And I think because, I mentioned earlier that Sasol is very big on safety and health. We understood why we're having to work from home, beyond just, it really was, I mean, the pandemic had just started, and, it's quite a serious thing. We still have to take it seriously now. So I think everybody, because that's the spirit that we have in the organization, we were keen to actually stay home and try to do our part to help with trying to fight against this big monster. So it didn't take a lot of convincing. I think everybody was excited about it. We obviously had to change a few things. When we come into the office every day, there's no issues because we're present. But there's reporting that had to be changed. How do we monitor and track that we are actually working from home? We're not coming in and clocking in our cards that sort of records our time spent on work. So we had to make some sort of HR related changes like those to ensure that people are actually doing the work and actually reporting for duty as we're supposed to. So small little changes here and there, but there was no big resistance, especially not from the Sasol's point of view. We all embraced our responsibility in fighting this pandemic.
So often we see with remote work that there's tension between employees that can work remotely and those that can't. Did you guys go through that, and how did you resolve that?
That's such an important question, such a interesting question. So with us, we've always had this thing. We have a lot of people that work in the mines, for example, and there's a perceived sense that we at head office, we think we're a bit better, or we have all the privileges and all that. So that sort of banter has always been there, but it's not ill-intended or anything like that. So even when we had to start working from home, there was no friction about that. There was really, and luckily for us in our environment, in our head office, we all had to vacate the building. So there was no really fights or to say, you think you're privileged or whatever. It was quite an easy transition for us, luckily. And it still is. I mean, I think the important thing is, being available, showing up and continue to do your work. As long as you do that with your clients, then I don't think it should matter where you actually work from. And certainly for us, that's never been a problem.
Wonderful. So interesting. You talk about showing up, and that is one of the biggest issues is, how do I know when someone is showing up for work remotely? What do you think are some of those ways that people are there, that the work is getting done?
I think we spoke about performance a little bit, and we spoke about how we measure our performance. So, I think it's important that, if you have good processes that guide those sort of things, then you really shouldn't go wrong. I mean, we still have, our monthly sessions with all my team members where we actually talk about work and we actually measure people's statuses in terms of, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's part of our continuous performance evaluations that we do. But I mean, not only that, but also, we've had to twist some of our processes here and there. But I think what's important is you keep on measuring people as you would normally. This is not an opportunity to say people must slack. Also, if you keep in touch with your people, and you will eventually, and people are trying to not do what they're supposed to be doing, it will be visible. And also your customer satisfaction is quite important. So you engage with your customers in the work sense. You speak to your people, find out if we're still making them happy. We run regular surveys as a department to our external customers, and should there be anything that's been raised from those surveys, we quickly attack it. So I think people know that they should remain resilient, and they should remain focused on what they need to be doing. So you don't have COVID is not an opportunity for us to not continue doing our performance management. In fact, it becomes more important, because unfortunately you do get those situations where people try to take chances. Obviously we try not to micromanage people, but I mean, as long as your work still needs to be done, at the end of the day, we are paying you to do work. And like we spoke in the beginning, if it's work that you value and makes you feel as if you're adding value, we shouldn't have a problem. We will continue doing